Good evening. I'd like to meet a student I got to know recently. After a class I spoke to, she explained she had noticed one of her close friends was very intoxicated at a party and was being led away by a guy she didn't know. Not only did this lion-hearted gal get through a group of people blocking her way, but she got the host of the party to unlock the door to get to her friend and made sure she was okay. Now, for most of us, a more typical response is depicted by this comic where a lifeguard is calling out to someone drowning, "I said, I'm not on duty. I just came back to get my flip-flops." Why is it that so many times fundamentally good people don't stand up or get involved? Tonight, I want to talk about the pervasive issue of power-based personal violence, including sexual assault, stalking, and partner violence, and a growing movement to stop it called the Green Dot. So many of us have a connection to this, as this slide illustrates. Today on the planet, it is estimated that 1 billion women will be raped or beaten in her lifetime. 1 in 6 boys will experience sexual violence before the age of 18. And many men experience domestic violence and stalking as well, regardless of gender, sexual orientation, age, social status, ability, or ethnicity. No one seems to be exempt. Over the course of history, through the Holocaust, Rwandan genocide, the classic Kitty Genovese case, or more recently, tragedies at Penn State where action could have been taken but wasn't, the same pattern emerged. How can we overcome this bystander effect, this natural tendency to evade and excuse? Now, historically, our best response to this epidemic of violence seems to be this long list of rape prevention techniques focused on the victim. As you see here, all decent reminders, but research shows hardly meet a dent in the staggering levels of violence. It turns out we weren't engaging a whole pivotal cast of characters called bystanders. This bystander model pulls back the lens from focusing only on the victim or perpetrator to the friends, family, onlookers, coworkers in the situation, empowering them to integrate moments of prevention right within their daily life. Thomas Merton has a beautiful quote. It says, "The whole idea of compassion is based on a keen awareness of the interdependence of all these living beings, which are all a part of one another and all involved in one another." This strategy is based on the assumption that, in fact, individual safety is in part a community responsibility. Now, back to the teeth of the matter, though. How does this violence happen at these levels, right? Imagine a map of the community, or you can just look at the screen, a bunch of single red dots showing up, right? Each red dot represents a choice or behavior in any moment in time that either contributes to violence or allows it to happen. This could be a hit, sex without consent, some threatening in a text, so on. But as it turns out, the solution is a reflection of the problem. A green dot, another moment in time when our choice or behavior visibly shows intolerance for violence or in some way actively makes our community safer. In order for this to work, though, we must recognize our own influence in responding to the problem of violence and promote a social norm of action rather than inaction. As this sign reminds us, I always wondered why somebody didn't do something about that, and then I realized I am that somebody. It's important to acknowledge, though, that if this was easier, a lot more people would be doing it. When we are aware of our obstacles, however, whether that be being maybe shy or it's thinking it's none of my business, we're more likely to be able to work around those obstacles. Thankfully, this idea of Green Dot doesn't prescribe exactly what to do. It just says, could you do something rather than nothing? So how do we teach a generation to recognize this interdependence, to get involved? 3 ideas. They have to think they're connected, right? That they have a role to play. Second, the knowledge piece, believing that they have options, knowing what to look for. And finally, skills, that this is actually manageable. But this is the stuff that revolutions are made of. Seemingly small things like wearing a Green Dot button on your backpack here or posting a Green Dot moment on Facebook really do lead to new social norms within their sphere of influence that leads to a critical shift from passive agreement that violence is wrong to active intervention. So this is a picture of new members in fraternities at U of L going through a training of ours. We can often treat the issue as if it takes men an extraordinary effort not to rape, and the burden of protection falls on women. Well, I would think that most men might find this offensive. The truth is, men play a critical role in ending violence. Another scene here, a Take Back the Night event, communities of both men and women, again, harnessing their collective power to bring the invisible stories about violence out into the open, into the streets. Goes to show that the change is that accumulation of individual actions. So rock on, community activism. Speaking of individual actions, here's just some specific suggestions of how you could add your green dot to the map. It's not just for college campuses, kind of something for everyone up there where you work or live. But think about, again, maybe your own specific green dot this evening. Now, in a room this size, I'm aware that many of us carry stories of personal connection to this issue. I encourage you to think about how you could turn your own wounds into perhaps a source of strength, and to take the step to tell your story to someone to find healing and change. Tonight, I want to remind you that your voice is powerful. One green dot at a time, I believe this is our moment in history to reclaim our right to live free of violence and fear. Great quote again, we will either find a way or make one. The stakes are too high not to. This isn't the only way, but engaging bystanders makes a way for less people to be hurt. It may not be a royal flush, but we certainly think it's a pretty good hand. Finally, to make this happen, we may even have to paint, march, dance, or even sing these realities into existence. I will pass on something better. I will pass on something better. I will pass on something better to you. Thank you.